This episode is sponsored by Midlock Investment Partners, the real estate investment firm, operator, and fund manager. Midlock invests in middle market properties valued between $5 and $50 million in the Midwest and beyond, using a value add strategy. Learn more about Midlock and join their mailing list at midlock.com. That's Midlock, MIDLOCH.com. Thanks, Midlock, for being a sponsor of Passive Investing from Left Field.
There is a time for cash flow. And that is when you get to significant amounts of wealth. Like, your cash flow should be tied to your wealth, meaning your wealth should be generating the cash flow.
Hello, Left Fielders. Welcome to the Passive Investing from Left Field podcast. Our community is focused on networking and education to help people invest passively and think differently. Let's go.
This is Peter Kim, and you are listening to the Passive Investing from Left Field podcast.
Hello, Left Fielders, and welcome to the Passive Investing from Left Field podcast. I'm your host, Chad Ackerman, today. And today I'm happy to be joined by Bala Krishnan. Bala is a tech startup founder and real estate investor specializing in ground-up new construction, land development, and heavy lift value add and repositioning in Silicon Valley, Phoenix, Dallas-Fort Worth. Bala's current focus is on building ground-up, build-to-rent communities and land development in the Phoenix MSA. Bala, welcome to Passive Investing from the Left Field. We appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much, Chad. I'm very glad to be here.
Great. We always like to start out with the journey. It's always interesting to hear people's backgrounds, how they ventured through their lives, their careers to get to this point. But maybe you could start with the early stuff and tell us what kind of got you started in your career and so forth, because it's an interesting journey, sounds like.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I started out my professional life as a tech entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. I founded a company in 2008 called Peel Technologies, and we set out to, those were the days of the first iPhone versions that had come out. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to take the remote control and make it an application on the phone, and not have it be a physical device that sits around, but rather just make it into an app, right? So we started working on that, and the company had some very tremendous successes in the beginning. We were able to raise our seed funding. So this was an interesting anecdote. The day that we started the company was 15th September 2008. And that was the day that Lehman Brothers went bust. Okay. So in the morning, I remember, that was the day I quit my job as well. In the morning, I remember, waking up and reading the news. I did not know the ramifications or the meanings behind that news. I just saw that, Lehman Brothers went bust. I didn't even know who Lehman Brothers was. I was, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then it went and then did everything, and then finally landed in a situation which was very tricky to raise money for a startup company that was trying to do something that nobody had done before. So it was incredibly difficult raising money for my company. But then eventually ended up doing pretty well. We raised our seed fund, and then after that went on to do a Series A, Series B, Series C, and a Series D by the time we were done. And all put together, we had raised about close to $96 million for the company through the various different tranches of fundraising that we had to do for the company. So the company, we hired the best engineers and designers out of the best of the best companies and what these people were doing there, and brought them on to build a remote control app, pretty much. And that was the first remote control app that was available for the iPhone system. We were so early in the game that we had to also sell an accessory hardware product along with the app. So the app wouldn't work without the accessory product. And it was a Wi-Fi to infrared bridge, and you could leave this on your coffee table or anywhere in your home, and it would speak infrared to your home entertainment devices. and it would speak Wi-Fi to your phone, so your phone can connect to it, and then thereby connect your devices, right? So we did this, and then it was fantastic. We launched about our first tranche of units that we built was about 6,000 units, and we gave it to Apple, and Apple sold the Apple store, the physical store, and they sold these devices in 3 weeks. So we were like sold out, and then and we didn't really expect that kind of you know a market welcome, if you will, and that was pretty surprising, pleasantly. So we set out to do another round, but when we were doing that, we had Samsung come knocking, and they said, "Hey, you have this accessory product that you are selling through the Apple stores. We have an interesting proposition for you. What if we take that whole device, miniaturize it, and put it into the phone itself? Then you wouldn't need this product anymore, and we would preload your app on our phones. So when we sell your phones, your functionality and your app will just ship with the phones." And we thought about it, and we said, "Yeah, that sounds like a
I was gonna
fantastic
say that
idea," because
that sounds like a
we were
good day.
selling, yeah, we were selling like 6,000 units, and these guys were selling 600 million phones,
Yeah, that's
a
a fairly
year.
easy decision, I would hope.
Yeah, fairly easy decision. So we said, yes, let's do that. So then Samsung launched this on their flagship device, which was called the S3. Now we're in S21. So this was way back. And yeah, so they shipped us on their flagship phone. And then as soon as that happened, or in parallel, we also shipped on the HTC devices. And then we went on to ship on Sony, Panasonic, LG, Huawei, Xiaomi. All the Android phone manufacturers came to us. Okay, all of them. So very soon, the company became highly Android focused, because that's where most of our users were coming from. And through this journey, we started to really dial in the features and the customer experience, and customers recommending other customers to come on board and all these things. So user growth became a big issue. So we started focusing on those, things like that. And through that journey, um, we realized that when it comes to user growth, it's very important that you grow exponential, and it is linear growth to get to millions and millions of users can take a very, 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 very long time. And that kind of slow execution goes nowhere in a tech company. So you have to go exponential. So there's something in the industry that is called the virality factor, or the K factor as it's called. So when the K factor is greater than 1, you're exponential. When you are equal to 1, then you're steady state or flatlining. And when you're less than 1, you're exponentially decaying, right? So the K factor literally means for every user that you get, how many new users will those users bring for you, right? So you have to be greater than 1 to be growing. And if you're greater than 1, you're automatically exponential as well, because each of the other investors that are, or each of the other users that are coming in will bring their own users as well. So it stacks up and goes exponential. So I spent a lot of time inside the company, modeling for exponential growth. That became kind of the business mentality within the company. Whatever we did had to be tweaked for exponential growth, and we did that a lot. And while I was doing this, I was also investing in real estate on the side. I'd invested in my first deal, which was a multifamily property in Dallas. That was my first deal that I ever did. And back then, going into real estate was, it was just another investment that we had to do. I'm from India. They say we say that there are two things that run in our blood when it comes to money. One is gold, and the other one is real estate. We have to do it. People from India have to do it, right? So I mean, real estate was always very, very attractive to me. I always wanted to do it. So when I had the opportunity, I jumped in and
What year
acquired that.
was that when you did your first deal?
Yeah, this was in 2013.
2013. So
Yeah,
you
so
made it
late
through the financial
2013.
crisis. You watched all that take place. You
Yeah,
watched the
yeah,
market starting to pick up again, and then it
yeah.
was a good time to act on the real estate side of things then.
I wasn't thinking about those things, to be honest. I wasn't.
It's
I
just
wasn't
time.
very good at reading the market and doing any of these things. These things just happened very organically, right? I had some money with me. I was like, okay, what should I do with it? Let's go buy some real estate, right? I've never been a stock market guy. I don't understand the stock market. Even now, even though I have a good investment, a good chunk of my wealth in the stock market, I don't understand it as well as I understand real estate. So anyway, so my real estate portfolio, when I like entered it, I was just going in there for the sake of passive investing and cash flow and things like that, which is very usual in our industry. So we did that, and then so I purchased the property, I improved it, I pushed the rents up, the NOI went up, and all that, right? So whatever the theory was, I executed the theory to perfection. Then after that, I sat down and started collecting the rent checks or the cash flow, the monthly cash flow. I wasn't very impressed. I was like, well, this is so tiny. Where am I? Like, what is this? What's the strategy here? Right? Like, how long is this going to take me? Do I have to like work the rest of my life? And because I was an entrepreneur, the job was never, what is the right word? The job was never an assured thing for me, right? And I was going up and down with the fluctuations of the business, right? And so I was focusing on my investments a lot. Like my investments had to do something for me or for us in order for us to feel financially secure, right? So I was always driving my investments towards that, towards getting us to financial independence as quickly as possible. So then I was not very impressed with the cash flow that was coming out of this property, even though I'd invested a significant portion of my wealth in this property. I wasn't impressed with what was coming out, and it was going to take me several properties to get to financial independence. Right. So that's when I had a realization that what I was doing in my tech world, which was growing for exponential outcomes, what if I modeled my real estate journey to that, right? And how would that look like? So me and my wife sat down, she's a mathematician herself, and we're both geeks, very comfortable with programming, models, and all of this. So we kind of came up with our own back of the napkin model for our own investments, right? So what the model told us was, yes, you hold on to your property for some time, but then once you've realized the value after the improvements, um, that is the biggest improvement in value, or that is the biggest bang for the buck you will get. After that, when you're holding it for cash flow, your property appreciates by whatever rent appreciates by. Okay. When you look at the two, when you're improving your property, you're seeing, 100%, 150% returns. But when you're just holding it for cash flow, you're seeing 3%, 4%, 5% returns. And that was an aha moment for us.
It's the law of diminishing returns. You've
Law of
proven
diminishing
it
returns.
into real estate. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
So we said, okay, if we had to use this as the vehicle to get us to financial independence,
Yeah.
then we have to play this game differently. We have to expose our capital to the 100%, 150% return that phase.
Yes.
We should have maximum exposure there, and we should have minimum exposure to the 3%, 5% phase, right? So we started modeling our investments to that. So which meant that we had to sell the Dallas property immediately. And we said, yes, let's do it. So we put it on sale, the property sold. And when it sold, we realized that we had more than doubled, 2.35 times our original investment into the deal in about 22 months. Okay. So anytime
That's
you're looking
great
at,
for your first one. That's fantastic
yeah,
returns on your first
it
deal.
was fantastic. And I did this deal as an out-of-state owner, right?
Yeah.
So it was pretty good, and it was a part-time investment for me. I was spending most of my time running the startup, And here I had this real estate, which was really, took like maybe an hour of my time a week, because I had like calls with my property manager 1 hour every week. That's all I put into it, and kind of like doubled my equity. And that was very powerful moment, because when you're focusing on wealth and wealth multiplication, the doubling events are very important. When you talk to wealth managers, they will always talk about doubling events and doubling periods. How long it takes you to double, and how many cycles do you need of doubling to get wherever you need to get to. And what we had realized is we had just experienced a doubling event in about 22 months, less than 2 years. So that was an aha moment for us. We said, okay, this is very powerful, and if we daisy chained these events, if we sequenced a set of these events one after the other, then the 2 becomes 4, the 4 becomes 8, the 8 becomes 16, and you can keep on doing this, right? There's no end to this. So we said, yeah, this is very powerful, let's do it. So that was our model. That was the beginning of the 10Y journey. It was not named 10Y back then. It was just something that me and my wife came up with, and then we put it into action. As soon as we sold that property, we took that money and rolled it into the next property, and then that one did the same thing again, and we kept doing this. And our model told us that in about 10 years, we would be able to get to financial independence. However, we kind of beat our own estimates, and we got there in about 8.5 years. And this happened, yeah, this happened before my tech company had an exit. So it was all the more powerful to me. It was very impactful. And here I was, in the highly glamorized tech world, and look at what my not so glamorous real estate investments were doing on the side with part-time involvement, right? They were like crushing what my tech company had done until that point. And then in 2020, 2021, my tech company also had an exit. It was a life-changing moment for me, some of the initial investors, and team members. So we did that. Then as soon as that happened, I decided to put some space, physical distance between me and Silicon Valley, because otherwise I would have ended up doing one more company. Yeah. So we said, okay, we got to go somewhere. And I'm from South India. We thrive in hot weather, and California, for its fabled weather, was still very cold for us. So he had an opportunity finally to go put down roots elsewhere. And then we kind of, we looked at like Miami, we looked at Phoenix, then we eventually came to Phoenix. So we live in Paradise Valley here, which is a suburb of the Phoenix Scottsdale market. And I only pursue the 10Y investments right now. I don't do anything else. This is what I do full time. That's my journey.
So and that's what a journey. And I think that's great that the real estate was almost a support system while you're really still in the tech world that ended up trumping the tech world and ended up being your exit to retirement. Then you got sugar on top of that by selling your company as well. But all the better that you had 2 plans. You have multiple strategies going on at the same time. So through all that, then that created the 10Y business for you, I'm assuming, that you were implementing that to help others gain. Can you talk about that then a little bit of when did it spark to you that, was this after you sold the tech company that you decided to stir the 10Y company focus instead?
Yeah. When I sold when I exited my company, we moved here, and the plan then was to just retire.
Yeah.
I just wanted to retire and just pursue my own personal investments. That's all I wanted to do. Right. So I came here, and then I started spending a lot of time with my family. Me and my wife, we both had been like busy professionals. I was running a startup. She was working as a data scientist in FICO, which is the credit scoring company. She was building some of the consumer algorithms for credit risk profiling for the retail market. And now both of us were just spending all the time that we had with each other.
Yeah.
The side effect of that is you get into a lot of fights. You know? So retired life ended up being a little stressful on the domestic side for us. You know? And we both
Right.
kind of like realized that. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to, I think I need to do something. And then I rented an office and then just went to the office every day, not to do
Yeah, yeah,
anything,
yeah.
but just to come here. And then, they say an idle mind is a devil's workshop. That ended up kind of packaging our own experiences in real estate into 10Y,
Yeah,
and creating a product out of that I could then invite other investors to participate in,
yeah,
and so keep the ball rolling,
yeah.
and
No,
that's what
makes
I ended
sense.
up doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the blueprint of this was our own investment journey.
right.
We also coached a couple of students along this journey as well, and they also have achieved financial independence.
Great,
They're doing
great,
very well.
good.
So it came from all of that experience, but then 10Y is now a package that's put together to bring in retail, real estate, LP investors,
Yeah.
and then for us to keep doing the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, and we're glad that we connected, and we're going to have you come meet the community and share some of your information with them as well.
Yeah.
You implemented this as a personal strategy. It grew
Yes.
into a business. You've been in it starting with the personal side. You've been in it over 10 years now.
Yep.
Now that we're in this economy that we're in post-pandemic, potential recession, so forth, does
Yeah.
the model still seem to fit? Are you still finding means of the 2 to 3 year returns and so forth is still working, or have you had to adjust that model somewhat?
It's a great question. So, through this journey, what I've realized is you make money when you buy the property.
Yes.
You don't make money when you sell the property. And what I mean by that is you got to buy right. Buying right is extremely important and crucial, right? If you screw that up, you'll probably end up not making any money, or worse, you could lose your money, right? So what that means is it doesn't matter what the market situation is. The right deal is out there,
Yeah.
and it's up to you to go find it. So
Yep.
you can be rigid on your model as long as you have the wherewithal to go find those properties that work to your model, given the changed market conditions. So what it means is, on the acquisition side, we are always compensating with the market to accept new reality and find properties that would still make the 10Y model work. We
Yeah.
are not adjusting the 10Y model for the sake of the market, but rather we are adjusting the acquisition side of things. Right.
I like it.
Um,
That's a big discipline. That's difficult
Yeah.
for some people to do,
That's Yes, that is probably the most difficult thing to do in investment, because staying disciplined means saying no to certain opportunities.
yeah.
And if you keep doing that, then it becomes difficult to keep doing it, because how long will you keep saying no to opportunities where you
Yeah.
can make money?
Yeah.
Sometimes you might say, okay, you know what? Instead of 100% return, I will take 60% return. Right?
Yeah.
If you were to say that, that's difficult. Right?
It's outside of the model then, right?
So
Yeah.
everything depends on how good you are on the acquisition front, and you got to be. So what that means is we are always updating our underwriting model.
Mhm.
We tweak it to current market conditions, and then all the deal flow that is coming in gets thrown into that. And if it can stand the test of our underwriting, then we'll do those deals. If not, we will simply pass on those
Yeah.
deals. Right?
Yeah.
And the current situation has actually been beneficial to us because deal flow has increased. A lot of owners now want to sell because of the current situation,
Sure.
and now we are seeing a lot more. In the good days, when things were going gangbusters, it was hard for us to find deals that would work. Now it's easier, but it's just a question of, okay, how disciplined we are in this game.
Yeah. No, this is the aspect that I like about it. I have a mathematical, logical brain approach to this process too. And I've always said, if I set my parameters, it
Yes.
takes all the emotion out of the decision. it
Yes.
either works or it doesn't work. It becomes very black and white, to me at least. I know that
Yes.
isn't how everybody operates, but it sounds like that's how you approach these models as well. Of
Yes.
you have your strategy that you've proven over the last several years, you adjust to market strategies for underwriting purposes, but the underlying strategy of whether this is a go or no go stays the same and
Yes.
becomes very easy. It either works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Is how it boils down. That's great. That's very interesting.
Rustbelt Capital is an elite Ohio-based private equity firm with a specialization in long-term, high-cash flow multifamily investments. If you're looking for long-term recurring income, you should check out Rustbelt Capital. From their approach to managing risk, to the locations they invest, product quality they provide, this firm is serious about what they do, which is why the owners of Rustbelt Capital invest their money in every deal they take on. Review their case studies by visiting rustbeltcapital.com. That's rustbeltcapital.com. Once again, rustbeltcapital.com, or email investor@rustbeltcapital.com.
Left Field Investors is a community dedicated to limited partner investors who are interested in building wealth through real estate investing. The community is focused on education, networking, and engagement with quality operators and partners. We provide tools, webinars, and a forum where members can discuss everything related to real estate investing, including deals, operators, investment strategies, and much more. Coming soon, we're adding a new tool, sponsor reviews. This will be a place where our members can rate and review operating partners to further help each other in our investment journeys. Check us out at leftfieldinvestors.com.
I was perusing your website and I noticed this section that you talked about having 3 phases of your process. Can you speak to the 3-phase approach a little bit too?
Yeah, I mean the 3-phase. So this is how I, when I talk to investors, at least the way I approach real estate investments was to get to retirement, right, or get to financial independence. And when I talk to others about retirement is a catch-all phrase. All your dreams of retirement is kind of like condensed into that one word. So when you talk to people and ask them, hey, what do you want in retirement? They get overwhelmed very easily because they've all these concepts and ideas in their head that they've been dreaming about and aspiring to, and all of that now has to come out. It's not easy. Right? So that is why, even in my own retirement journey, I kind of saw myself go through these 3 phases. Phase 1 is what I like to call the financial independence phase, right? So that is where, you as an individual or a household, you have certain income coming in, you have certain expenses, and you have a certain lifestyle, right? The first job on the way, if you've set yourself up to achieve retirement, then I would say the first milestone is to get to replacing your current household income through investment income. Okay. That is the most important milestone and probably the most difficult milestone to get to. As soon as you get there, then this burden or fright of not being financially free goes away, and that is very liberating. That is very uplifting for you. Good things happen to you and your state of being, and also your state of mind, and then that has a reflection onto your home and how your home is as well. Everything becomes lighter in life, if you know what I mean, right? And once you get there, then you will automatically start dreaming about the luxuries that you've always wanted in life, right? And you can chart a course to get there, and it's not very difficult going from financial independence to including some luxury into your life. And when I say luxury, it's the mansion that you always wanted to have, the luxury car that you always wanted to have, whatever it may be, fabulous vacations, whatever, right? Now you can actually create a plan to get there, and you can actually put it into action, and you can get there, right? Then the third phase is what I like to call the FU money, right? And some of us dream about owning private yachts or private jets and crazy things like that. And it's possible to do that. And once you get to the luxury phase, then your mind will automatically start thinking about those things, right? The human desire doesn't stop. It keeps on going, right? It builds from wherever it is right now, and that will happen. And you will, if you want that, you will go there, right? But if we start the journey out by asking what do you want in retirement, and people say start boiling the ocean, right? Then it becomes very difficult to create a plan and put a plan into action. Becomes very difficult. So, which is why we advise our investors to think about this in 3 milestones or 3 phases. Break it down to, okay, what do you absolutely need in phase one? You tell us that. We will advise you on how much capital it may need and how much time it may need, and you get to decide what you want to do, and then you put that money in, and then we take you there through this investment opportunity. And then once you get there, then you can start thinking about the other things. But if you start thinking about the private jet right now, it's very hard to create a plan and put in place. So that's why we like to break it into these 3 phases. It's easier to digest, it's easier to plan and act.
It makes sense. And then in all these models, if it seems like from what I read on your site and what I've heard you talk about a little bit, you put a bigger emphasis on the wealth build than the cash flow, really. Can you talk about your logic there, your strategy to the whole model related to cash flow versus wealth gain?
Absolutely. Let's take a step back, right?
Sure.
Let's look at what's happening in the real estate world in general, right? Whenever you happen upon an investment opportunity in real estate, there are 3 things that are always discussed. Okay. One, we always talk about cash flow. 2, we always talk about taxes or tax advantages.
Sure.
And 3, we always talk about, okay, how much money we could get to make, right? Or what I like to call wealth multiplication.
Yep.
For a lot of people, these 3 things are important concepts, but if you deal with them as concepts, you go nowhere. And what I mean by that is tax, are tax advantages or saving on taxes, is that important? Yes, it's important. Is cash flow important? Yes, it's important. Is wealth multiplication important? Yes, it's important. Now, what should you do? Well, I don't know. You know what I mean? How do you prioritize? Because it's very difficult to find opportunities where all 3 are addressed.
True. That's a good point.
So if you bet on cash flow, what happens is this. Let me share my screen with you. This is what's happening. We were talking about this a while ago, right? So if you buy a property, you create the value, you kind of like you're sitting on like 100% appreciation, and then if you just continue to hold on to properties for cash flow, then it's doing like 5% annual return on this black line, But the green line is doing 100% over 2 years, right? So really, concepts are well and good, but you have to boil the concepts down to numbers and what it means to your life and where you want to go in life, right? If your goal is simply to get 5% cash on cash every year, then that's all you should do. But in my own personal journey, what I discovered was the 5% cash on cash is not enough to get to retirement. It is like investing without a strategy or investing without a destination. Right?
Yeah.
5% is good, but where is it going? Where is this strategy going? Where is it? Like, what am I going to get and when by just pursuing that, right? A lot of people, a lot of my investors, when I talk to them, are not sophisticated enough to understand that and put a plan in place for that, right? So it's like, I have some in the stock market, let me put some in real estate and let me earn 5%. That's all they think. That is the extent to which they've analyzed this, right? And what we're saying in 10Y is there's a better way to do it, right? Of course, you can go and invest for that, or you can just go and invest for like tax advantages. Even if you were to save 100% of your taxes every year that you pay off of your W-2 income, I challenge you that it is not going to be life-changing.
Not quick enough, anyway.
Not quick enough, and it's not going to be life-changing because you make 100%, and let's say you pay 30% as taxes.
Yeah.
If I give you that 30% back, is that 30% going to be life-changing? It's not going to be life-changing. So I see a lot of effort and energy spent in the real estate industry in mitigating and managing taxes. It is important, but if that is all you're doing, it's not going to change your life.
Yeah.
So what is going to be life changing between these three concepts? Between cash flow, taxes, and wealth multiplication, what is going to be life changing? In my humble opinion, it is wealth creation. Wealth creation will get you to a life changing event much faster than either of the other strategies can deliver.
Yep.
And that is what ended up happening to us, in our own journey. That's what proved out for us, and that is the one of the seminal thesis, if you will, of the 10Y philosophy of investment, which is we say if you bet on cash flow too early, then you're betting on small cash flow, and small cash flow is not enough to take you to retirement.
Nope, I think that's fair. I think I've always viewed it as a machine, and when you were taking cash flow, you're pulling money out of the machine that can't work for you anymore, or it's not going into the machine quick enough because it's cash flow, not double multiplier kind of growth. So the more I could keep wealth in the machine growing at those exponential amounts, exactly what you teach. I buy into that. It's a game. Now you got to decide what your goals are and
Correct.
whether you want to live on that money today or sacrifice, keep it in and do something else. But
that's a personal, subjective decision that every investor has to make for themselves.
Exactly.
But we think there is a time for cash flow, and that is when you get to significant amounts of wealth. Like your cash flow should be tied to your wealth, meaning your wealth should be generating the cash flow.
Yes.
If that is the case, then all you have to do is grow your wealth to wherever you need it to be to deliver the cash flow you need in your life. And at that point, you automatically become financially independent.
Yeah, that's it.
And that is what the entire 10Y model is about. And we just focus on that, exponential multiplication of wealth.
No, that's great. I'm a believer already. Well, I'm following your order without even having gone through your courses yet. So I think it's great. I think that's exactly what my logic has been as I've approached this. Really good stuff. One last thing I was going to ask you about, from what I read in what was in your intro, you put a focus on build to rent, and that seems to be kind of a newer thing that's coming around. Can you speak to, what your belief is in the build to rent model these days, why it's becoming so popular, it seems like, or it's growing anyway? Maybe speak to some of the elements of the build to rent model.
Absolutely. So, it goes back to what we want to do, right? We want to be able to, if we have to, double our investments every cycle, so to speak, right? Here's how that curve would look like. It's no longer a line, it goes exponential. And that is where we want our investments to be. Now, to do this, what this means is, I have a property today that I acquired at $400,000, and then I do some work on it and get it to a value of $800,000, right? And then we keep going. This is the amount of the investments, right? And then we keep going. Now, if I have to, so imagine for a second that I purchase a 100-unit property, and then I improve it, and then I sell it at whatever price, right? Now I have 2x the capital with me. That's my war chest now. So I go to the market and start looking for a replacement property. Right? Now I have to buy at least 200 units to keep going. Right?
Right.
So the math becomes very important, and 10Y is all about getting the math right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I have to only look at properties that are already existing, then it becomes pretty challenging, because with the capital I have, I need to deploy all the capital. Then, this is what is available in the market today.
Right.
And I cannot make a perfect transition from the sale to the next purchase when I'm dealing with existing properties, right? Because I cannot say, this property has 16 units extra. Can you sell me the rest of the units and you still keep the 16. I
keep
cannot
16.
do that. Right? I can't do that.
No.
If I'm doing ground up, I can dial the knob perfectly for the math. Right? I know exactly how much I'm going to exit with, and I can then, for the next cycle, plan ahead for exactly how many units I need to be building, and I can build to that perfect number.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And this is why ground up development is so important for 10Y. Right? We picked ground up development for the sake of 10Y. We didn't pick ground up we didn't pick ground up because there is build to rent and things like that. Build to rent is a fascinating investment opportunity. We love it, but even more important than that, it maps perfectly to the 10Y system.
Yeah.
And it gives us the ability to dial these knobs to very accurate perfection. We can do that.
I was going to say, I don't think I've met an operator that is so scripted, but you're right. Doing the ground up development yourself, you can be as specific as you need to be to fit the current state. And I assume that just grows. Next one is 240 units or 250, whatever it is.
Yes.
You have that ability to get to, I know I need this much land. I know I need these many units purchased or bought or built. That's very interesting. I've not seen it that scripted, but to your point, it's math. It boils down to the math of the scenario, and then you just implement at that point.
Whatever the asset class that allows us to execute the math is what we need. And it so happens that BTR is perfectly matched to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we are in BTR.
That's why it works. Interesting. This is great stuff, Bala. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your logic to it. It rings through with my mathematical, logical brain very well. So I'm buying in very much so. I'm really curious to learn more. So I'm excited that you guys are going to get involved with the left field community as well. Last thing I'll ask you is just if people want to reach out to you, where can they contact you?
Absolutely. So 10y.life is our website. Please go there. My contact information is there. We do have an active investment going for which we are actively raising funds. So that's 10y.life/invest. You can go there and you can create your investor account, and you have all the information there to reach out to me and connect with me. And any questions that you may have, I'm here to answer.
That is fantastic. I really appreciate it. I forgot, I do have one more question for you. We always ask,
Sure.
What is a great podcast that you like listening to? We like to share that with our listeners, but any podcasts that you enjoy listening to?
Podcasts that I enjoy listening to. Oh, I love Dr. Huberman's podcast.
Oh, yes.
I forget what it's called, but I love that. I watch all of those episodes.
I can't think of it either. We'll get it added to the show notes, though. Yeah.
Yes.
No, well, very good. Well, Bala, again, thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing this information with us. We really appreciate it. The knowledge share is going to be very interesting to see how it's digested and so forth. But thank you for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, Chad, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Very good. Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Have a deal in mind and a group of investors ready to go? Use TribeVest to pool your capital together through a multi-member LLC. TribeVest has streamlined the group investment process, making it easy, quick, and safe to do business with others. Start a tribe and invite your partners to join. Then you can use the platform to collaborate with your partners, pool capital, and manage your joint investments. I'm in 12 tribes myself. It is a great way to learn from others, spread risk, and get into deals at lower minimums. Go to tribevest.com to get started today. Visor provides investors with a secure platform that displays a comprehensive view of all of their holdings on a single, holistic dashboard. From real estate syndications to private equity, crypto to traditional investments, with AI-driven, unbiased, honest insights to maximize return. Visor is your one place to rule them all. Automating performance tracking, projecting future cash flow, analyzing all your financial documents, and much more in one powerful solution, making it easy to follow the money. Sign up for a free 30-day trial now at Visor.co.
That was a really great interview with Bala, and learning his processes and his approach strategy towards this investment business. I think it did ring through with me personally, because I feel like I approached a lot of this in a very similar fashion as I was getting into the business. Almost makes me feel better that somebody else had the same thoughts, or it took my thoughts to a whole different degree by all means, but at least tells me I wasn't out in left field, pardon the pun, with my thinking as I went through. But really liked his focus on exponential growth and compounding capital. Makes so much sense. The ability to do that and let your money work for you really rings through in this entire process. And him bringing up, going through his journey, starting out in the tech world, building his financial wealth through his W-2, and then starting out in this space, learning what his strategy was as he went through, really not knowing where it was. I think a lot of us have been there. I definitely started in one direction, figured out my goals were really in a different direction, and had to pivot. He was good or lucky that he was in the space he really needed to be. He just was tweaking his strategies for going forward, and it seemed to work. And then he used the last 10 years to kind of prove it out. I liked how he said you make your money when you buy the property. We hear that often, and I believe in it. There's so much value you could put into how you're analyzing, negotiating deals, and the fact that you have that discipline to focus on what your strategy is very, very important. I find it important to find operators that manage that way. You don't want them to get antsy because they haven't been able to find a deal for a while and pull the trigger on something that has more risk than they're usually ready to go to. I like how he said you don't change your model, you change the approach to how you analyze deals, and then you stick to that discipline of keeping to your strategies. I thought that was great. I liked his retirement phases. So he had a focus on one, set goals to replace your household income. And when you achieve that, go to stage 2 that focuses on those luxury items you want, maybe getting that bigger house, getting the second home, getting whatever, beyond just the day-to-day expenses being covered, build wealth towards that next luxury item. And then the third phase, getting to that FU money and just being at a total financial independence. That's the goal. Hopefully we probably all have that are focused and listening on these kind of podcasts. I also liked his focus on the 3 elements that people are really paying attention to as they go into these investments. It's cash flow, tax advantages, or wealth creation, and him putting the importance on the wealth creation because that is where it ramps up your compounded capital that much quicker so that you get to that stage of being able to do what you want to do because you've reached that financial freedom. Last thing, I liked how he talked about his model of build to rent fits, again, his strategy, his model that he's built for wealth development. It's not that he has changed his model to what deals he wants to get into. He's put deals in place that fit his model because he can be scriptive and come up with a very specific approach to the next development that he does and how many units he needs, how much land, where it is. He's not trying to put lipstick on a pig and make it work. He's building the whole process himself. And I think that's a fantastic approach. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode and got some great tidbits out of this as well. And we'll talk to you the next time. Thanks.
Thanks for hanging out in the left field with us today. If you are interested in becoming a left fielder, you can find us on the World Wide Web at www.leftfieldinvestors.com and click the subscribe button to join our community. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe to the show on your podcast player so you don't miss an episode. If you really enjoyed the show, a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts would be appreciated.
This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be considered financial advice. Before making any decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Passive Investing from Left Field and Left Field Investors. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.